Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chris and Andre Show.
So we are back to give our Season 1, Episode 6 of Moon Knight, the finale, if you will, recap and review. We are also going to do just a general Season 1 recap and overall thoughts. This will be spoiler-filled, so if you haven't watched any of Moon Knight, and especially the 6th episode, please continue to watch and just be spoiled, because, I don't know that you're really going to miss out on that much. Don't mean to give away all of our thoughts right off the bat. Andre, why don't you kick it off? Where do you stand on... Let's start with episode 6, the finale itself. What were your thoughts?
Gosh, I kind of wish I didn't watch it. It was an ultra letdown, and the first thing I'll start off with is Layla and trying to kill Ethan Hawke. I thought that was the dumbest thing ever, and it was just a way to kind of squeeze more Hippo Goddess out. I thought it was boring and stupid, and I wish they would have stopped. Then it just continued to irritate me even more when Khonshu shows up and he's fighting with what's her name?
Ahmet.
Ahmet. Yeah. God, that was annoying. The whole episode.
You didn't like
the Khonshu? Dude, the CGI.
No, I'm talking about the Japanese word for big monster fight.
Oh, kaiju.
Kaiju. You didn't like the kaiju
I thought
fight?
that was asinine. That was dumb. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, you guys are knocking over pyramids, but nobody's going to see this. You guys are falling over houses, but nobody's going to see this. Then you've got the budget CGI with Layla and her power up. It looked corny as I don't know what, man. It was the fight scene at the end was garbage. Everything was just terrible. I just didn't like the episode. I really couldn't deal with it. The end was so transparent. Like, you show Jake walking through, head down, whistling or whatever, and he taps dude on the shoulder. He's wearing all black and the gloves. He doesn't kill the nurse, which I'm glad he didn't, because that would have been too much for me. I just would have been like, okay, you guys, you're just doing too much with this show. He walks out, and I'm like, oh, this is totally Jake from the beginning, and he's totally about to cap dude. They mentioned, you knew Jake was there, not only from the esophagus or what is it?
Sarcophagus.
Sarcophagus, yeah, making
not
up words.
The esophagus.
The esophagus.
Then you've got Ethan Hawke saying, or whoever's in there, and I'm like, God, man, stop. I was just annoyed the whole episode. There was nothing about episode 6 that made me say that, oh, I would watch season 2 of this show. So thank goodness there will not be a season 2. It was terrible.
All right, Joe, give your rebuttal, because we all know, based on your responses so far, that you absolutely love this.
I request a formal apology from Andre.
A formal apology?
The last episode we did, he said there's no way the Scarlet Scarab or the Crimson Scarab will ever be in the show. When I said that I have a feeling that they're going to push that and you're going to see her powered up and everything, you're like, I don't think that's going to happen. And boom!
Okay, I'm sorry.
That was basically the whole episode. Okay. This
Joe,
wasn't even a Moon Knight episode.
Okay.
It was a Scarab episode.
Joe, I apologize. I was wrong. You were right.
You feel better, Joe?
That's 2 people this week that said I was right. One my ex and one you. So this is a good week for me.
So you're right. You're right. The show is still garbage.
With that said, I felt like they used a lot of the Falcon's technology, because she had a very similar moveset. Even her spins and the way she blocks things was very much.
CGI was like copy paste.
Yeah, I will say. So with that in mind, I was kind of like, oh well, she doesn't really feel that original as a character, but I do like how her, she's obviously her personality and the way she acts is different from Falcon.
Are you an Egyptian superhero?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she did kind of second guess it for a second, like, well, yeah, sure, yeah, but I just want to say her abilities compared to like Wonder Woman when she had the same outfit, way better. I couldn't stand seeing Wonder Woman break her wings for no reason. But well, this is actually I bring that up. No, I bring that up because the director of the show.
Because you're in an aerobics class and you're stretching.
No, I bring this up because the director of the show actually, when Wonder Woman came out, he actually tweeted how he was very disappointed with how that betrayal of that armor set was used. So there is a connection with Wonder Woman to this show because he purposely called them out. He called DC out on that. So I guess he put a lot more focus into making sure her moves are more organic and realistic in this one. Having that said, did
you see the CGI?
Yeah, of course. The CGI in this entire show has not been great. That's why everything's in the dark. So they
you
can
said
hide
organic, and you're like bypassing the fact that CGI.
No, you can be organic but cheap. And versus,
I think he's saying that like the fighting moves were more organic,
yes,
but the not commenting on the CGI stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't like you're seeing her punch somebody 50 feet in the air. It was like she was putting people down, and they were down. That was it. Moving on to the next target.
I'm being rude by interrupting you. I apologize.
It's expected. It's a heated,
but you were right.
heated discussion.
You were right. this was the Scarab episode.
I do say the giant gods fighting that no one can see was kind of a pointless thing. They could have just kept the fight inside the temple. That would have been cool. Inside the pyramid, I would have been cool with that because it would have made more sense that they would be able to fight stronger. Okay. This is a gripe. I'll say this gripe. They're both inside the pyramid, and neither one are really fighting. And then Khonshu is really tired, and he runs away. They're outside of the pyramid. All of a sudden, Khonshu can power himself up just as big as her, and he hasn't been eating any souls.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, yeah, I know the moon's out, but is it? I don't think the moon has that much power compared to human souls.
I am the god of the night.
And then they made the fact that they made Moon Knight's fly. I understand why they did that, but now all I can think about is he can only fly on full moons. And like throughout the week, and be like, "Sorry guys, I can't go out and fight crime today. It's not a full moon."
Yeah. Be like if you were a werewolf superhero.
Yeah. But I'll just keep it simple.
You guys get back to me in 2 weeks.
I'll keep it simple. My eyes rolled when Homeboy and Moon Knight collided on the pyramid, because I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm honestly sick and tired of these kind of unbelievable CG fights where I'm punching you through buildings and throwing cars at you. And when they decided, we're just gonna end all that if Jake killed everybody, I was like, wow, okay. I feel a little cheated for my fight scene, but at the same time, I didn't want to see it, so we're good. So yeah, let's move on with the rest of the story. I want to see more of what's going on with the other stuff.
Jesus.
So no, the show's a mixed bag, but I like how they focus more on world building and intrigue outside of the main character. That there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of fertile ground for better stuff to come.
All right.
Especially with season 2, because they're going to do it.
So before we dive into the full season recap, I appreciate both of your thoughts. I fell asleep last night before I got the chance to watch this, but I did sit down. No.
Oh.
I literally watched it starting at 4:00 today, so it is super fresh in my mind. Like I just got done watching it before we started the podcast. Where to begin? CGI was awful. Like it hasn't been that bad the whole season. I feel like they ran out of budget for the last episode, and we're like, crap.
I can see that. Yeah.
Khonshu
can't be cheap to make.
Yeah, it can't be. I get that, and same with Moon Knight. Like there's a lot of little moving pieces and stuff on the armor and whatnot. But yeah, like it just kind of the CGI took me out of it a bit. The stuff with Layla creeping around at the beginning was dumb, just dumb. That when she gets out of the back of the truck and pulls her mask down to unsheath the knife, I'm like,
nobody saw that.
Not only did nobody see that, but why on earth would you show your face to then stalk the guy who knows what you look like?
And why did Ethan Hawke stop and pause and look?
Repeatedly, like it's like he knew she was there.
I think it's supposed to be he felt her presence, but he couldn't figure it out why.
Yeah.
That's how you get shanked.
The stuff with the stuff
You're in
with
the club. I feel
Tarawet,
like something's wrong.
yeah. The stuff with Tarawet, like embodying the dead bodies.
That was cute. No, that was kind of cute.
I
really?
didn't hate the interactions between the two of them, but the way that they did it, I like there were plenty of dead bodies back at the temple. The timing of everything was very confusing because it's like, you know, when we saw Mark and Steven on the boat, like there were what appeared to be hundreds of souls descending or ascending into the afterlife there. And
Can I interrupt right there?
Yeah.
So then that part too confused me. So when he was on the boat, it was like she was like just gaffling everybody. So was that representative of what they were doing in Cairo?
Couldn't have been, because at that point, Layla had already been embodied, had already become the Avatar. Or was like in the process of becoming the Avatar.
So what was that all
and had
about
already
then?
I
spoken
think the
to
timeline's all
Tarawet.
messed up because I think they intended that to be where she's getting all the souls from. Because when she mentions that she's released and she's killing people, but he didn't kill people until he got to the city.
He didn't kill people until like the first group of people that he killed was when they were at the checkpoint, right?
Yeah, which I don't understand that checkpoint. Is that just a thing in Egypt? We just put random checkpoints in the middle of the road that can easily bypass?
Transformers.
They do out in the
They did
desert
that in one Transformers
sometimes,
But now I want to
there
know:
was-
is there checkpoints in Egypt just randomly placed in the middle of the road?
They did it in Transformers.
Because you can just drive
Transformers
around that.
if it happened in Transformers, it can happen anywhere.
2. Just saying, it's not the first time. It's like Google it.
Michael Bay did it. It's okay.
Yeah, that's what I didn't want to say his name, man. I was just like,
Okay, so Mark going back for Steven, that part I actually kind of liked. Like, the fact that he did it, you know, I mean, we knew that it was going to happen, but I liked the fact that there was, like, that bonding moment between the two of them again, and Steven was like, you
A true
idiot, you
Disney
came back
moment.
for me.
Yeah, my love will break the stone.
it was so irrelevant. It was a stupid scene.
All of the avatars for the other gods, like, walking
Stop.
in...
Let's go back to Steve.
Okay.
He's not a soul.
No, he's not.
Well,
So
He's
that
part
was
of a soul.
irrelevant.
yeah, he's a fractured soul. That was the whole idea. Their two hearts turned to one, so they became one.
It's still, though, like, the fact that they left Jake out of that whole thing in the afterlife didn't make any sense. That, like, Mark coming to terms with Steven made his heart whole, but he never had to deal with Jake. Like,
I'll disagree.
Okay.
So, I think what they were trying to interpret was both Mark and Steven were confused as to their own identity in the grand scheme of thing. Either one was saying like they're the main one of the body. They both were fighting over the body. The only one that wasn't fighting over the body was Jake. Jake didn't give a shit about controlling the body. He's just doing his thing. He's all about Khonshu. Khonshu says it's time to kick in, kill some people. He's there. He's gone. Bada bing, bada boom. He's 100% certified, like comfortable with who he is.
So how do the scales balance it?
Yeah,
because
that's
at
what I
that
was
moment,
thinking.
because at that moment when, so
Because he was not shot and part of the part of that conscious moment, he wasn't on the soul trial.
no, what I'm saying is what the soul trial looks to be more so less about your evil acts and more about your self identity. If you feel comfortable with your actions and if you feel you should be punished for that. So both Steven and Mark were very opposite in how they felt about each other, which caused them to be unsecure about who they were by
that's
themselves.
a good take.
Okay.
So it was because when Steven, realized
Okay,
I
Joe,
can do
you're
what I
gonna
can
love
do.
this. Joe,
Right.
you're right. That was still
Yeah, we're
stupid.
never gonna hear the end of it.
Three
You're right.
times.
I can see that, but I still think it's stupid
We're
because
not disagreeing.
You're right,
It-
but it's stupid.
I think it's rough territory because we've never seen this happen in like any superhero show before, or movie
Yeah.
for that matter. So they're kind of
guess-
making it up as they go.
And that's part
Well,
of
they
it,
made a
right?
lot
Is
of
that
shit as they
it
went.
felt like it didn't make a ton of sense, like to me, right? I didn't, and maybe that's just because they didn't do a great job explaining it in that sense, like what the weighing of the heart versus the feathers ultimately meant. That it was more a representation of where you stand with your actions, and not like your actions against, say,
Yeah.
the Bible, right? Like,
Yeah, that's why Alexander the Great was perfectly balanced, even though he was clearly a dickhead throughout history.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
then we
Okay,
get
that's
to the monster fight. I am
Kaiju
with
fight,
you in that the fact that no, not even there. When Khonshu is just like, I can make it nighttime, like what?
But he got his ass kicked in the tomb.
Yeah,
Well, I'm saying there's nobody left to stop him from turning at night. All the gods lost their avatars.
but they never made that's never been something that they've brought up before. Like he could change the night sky. But it wasn't like they were switching from day to night to day to night to day to night while they were doing that. He wasn't like winding back time in that sense. It was just like,
And if
I can make the stars
turning
look
it
different.
from day to night on the whole world, nobody else noticed
nobody
that?
noticed. Exactly. So then
I'm
we get
pretty
to the...
sure everyone noticed that.
Oh, okay. Nobody in Cairo seemed to notice anything
Yeah,
until...
they stopped. They were looking around. And
That
then next thing
wasn't...
you know,
No, that wasn't until
followers
Ethan Hawke...
judge everybody.
Till Harrow got up on top of the thing and was like, here's
Yeah.
my purple glow. And everybody was like looking straight up.
Yeah, why
at a
did
purple
Ethan Hawke
glow
not have
that's
a suit?
over there? Yeah, that didn't make any
I was
sense
hoping
either.
he would get his super suit just like everyone else would. And maybe he won't be stepping on glass the entire fucking fight.
I'm just saying, dude. All right, go ahead with your, because I want to. Like,
No, it's okay. We'll get there. So yeah, the monster fight. I didn't understand why Khonshu was the same size as Amit, even though we just watched. The only reason that Amit got so big was because she was absorbing all those souls.
I guess the moon must be strong that time of year.
No, again, like if that's it, explain it. Like you can't just ultimately make him that big. At first, I thought it was tiny Khonshu fighting giant Amit, which I think would have made like almost more sense. Like I'm quick, I'm nimble, I'm agile, and you can't quite catch me.
No,
and then
he always
it's like a completely unfair fight.
Oh, my bones.
I will say also the Amit like CGI was probably my least favorite part of the whole episode. Like worse than Layla's Falcon wings and all that stuff. Like her, when she first showed up, I was like, that's terrible. God, that looks awful. Like that's so clearly fake. Did not appreciate that. Then we get to the Jake sighting, or supposed Jake sighting.
Mr. Latino.
And this is when we don't actually see Jake, but just when they end the fight and he's getting ready to kill Harrow. I was just like, what?
Axe in head, like right there, ready to push through.
That's how we're gonna... Okay. Like, I get that you've been toying at whether or not there's a third, but you've made it obvious that there's at least another third personality in there.
2 episodes ago.
It made that Eternal fight look really good in comparison.
Anyways.
The Eternals is not a bad movie.
You've talked about that. We're not doing an Eternals review right now. We can do that.
I'm just saying.
I guess to wrap things up, like for my take on this episode, then we get to the post-credits scene, because there's really nothing else that's worth talking about in the actual like episode, in my opinion. Like the whole binding Ethan Hawke to his body, Mark refusing to kill him. Like of course he's not going to kill him. Like that's not who Mark is. That's not who Steven is. And of course the whole stupid deal with Khonshu where he's like, I gave Mark and Steven their freedom, but I kept the third personality. Ha ha ha. Like, nope, saw that coming.
So, real quick on that merit. So, they're both wanting to be free from him. Why do they have a dream where they told, the psych guy
also made
that
no
we want to
sense.
be a superhero? I'm like, but you just... That's a really big point for me. I was like, do you want to be Moon Knight or do you not want to be Moon Knight? Like,
ooh, Noon Knight. I like that.
Noon Knight,
That's
Noon
high
Knight,
noon.
yeah.
That's when he's most powerful. Every day.
be a cowboy.
Cowboy. Pew, pew, pew.
Mr. Knight though. Mr. Knight, I love Mr. Knight's scenes. Just
okay, I did
finally
like watching Mr. Knight fight. That was kind of nice. Like to
and then be complete dick to Khonshu, say let's negotiate.
I did
Really?
also appreciate that. I think Steven was probably my favorite character in the whole show. Like
Steven's the
ultimately.
showrunner, man. He kept the show going.
And that's why people were so upset when he got left in the sand last episode. But yeah, then we get to the Harrow in the psych ward, and it was all just so obvious. Like, it really was just so incredibly obvious that there wasn't any payoff for it. It was like, okay, how does, like, even then, it didn't really make sense. Like, all of that stuff where they're in this psych ward, like, was it a real psych ward? Is this
No, that one was real.
So, but why? Why is Ethan Harrow in a psych ward?
Yeah, I know. That's right. Right, yeah. Because he went from I'm on the slab, you'll never stop me, to I'm just in a psych ward.
Now I'm in a psych ward.
It's not like all his followers are dead.
Right.
There's followers around the entire world.
Yeah. ready to do her bidding, and then
that pissed me off too. There was nothing. It was like crickets.
Nothing at all. So yeah, just a lot of disappointment, I think, in this 6th episode. And honestly, what we talked about last time kind of set me up for that to some degree, I think. Like, Andre, your take on it had started to kind of seep into my perception of the whole show. Not in a bad way, but just like I started to look at it in a little bit more critical light. I think the more and more that I realized they were going to do a super short finale, the more and even then, like, I kept looking at the time and I'm like, there's like 10 minutes left on this episode. Yeah. And they're done with it. And then, like, they went to credits, and then I was like, okay, there has to be a post-credit scene. And they did a post-credit scene that was, like, 2 minutes long. And then they're like, oh, nope, there's still 6 minutes of credits. And I'm like, what the actual F are we doing here, guys? Like, you had 46 minutes. You had as much time as you wanted. Disney Plus.
So
it's Disney Plus.
I got a question. Now that we're talking about this and putting it on the table, I just got a question. So you're looking back on how Hamid was doing his thing, right? With the tattoos and the weighing of the soul and whatnot.
Hamid?
Harrow. No, Harrow. Say Harrow.
Okay, yeah.
He was doing all that, and it was pretty much implied that he had a connection with Ahmed.
Yes.
But then when Ahmed comes out of her tomb, she's like, "Who are you?
Who freed me?"
Yeah, she was confused.
Yep.
And then she talked to him, and he was like, "I'm your whatchamacallit," and she was like, "Your scales are unbalanced." Why would he have to tell her?
Yeah.
That I'm your avatar, or
your disciple. Yeah.
Where is he getting this power from?
I'll be honest. That was something else, and I forgot about it because I wasn't overly impressed with the show.
She was like,
and overall, the show is not. It's a good effort, and I appreciate that Marvel did it. I just think it was very poorly executed.
Yeah.
This is another show where I'm just kind of like, did you really need to do that?
I think the potential that the show had overall, as we get into our season 1 recap now, it did. Like, the show had a ton of potential, right? You have an amazing actor in Oscar Isaac who was able to capture individual personalities really well. I mean, the scenes at the end where he's jumping literally from one character to the next was fantastic. The scene where he's back in the organizing, psych ward thing, talking to Harrow, and they had all three. Like, I don't know if you guys caught that, but all three. Like Jake popped up there too. Yeah.
Do you see that? Yeah, I see that.
Exactly. Like, really, really well done. He's incredible. Aside from that, I not even that. I will say I liked Ethan Hawke's portrayal of Harrow at times. I don't love the overall character because I felt like it was so generic.
I like typical Harrow when Harrow is not being evil. When Harrow is just sitting down and being a normal dude to you, and you can start seeing his point of view, that's great. But when he goes token Disney evil,
just kept it.
They should have done that. He didn't. I don't think he's a character that ever needed to be token evil. He just needed to be misguided.
Like, he didn't have to be, and maybe this is coming from the comics, and so that's where they drew this from.
In the comics, he's nothing like the show.
But I'm saying, was he Khonshu's avatar before Mark was in the comics? Okay,
there really wasn't anything before Mark. They hinted at it with other crossovers, but not like
that. Was the evil part, right, where it was all about revenge on Khonshu and all that stuff. That didn't really match with everything else that he was trying to do. Like, yeah.
But to be fair, and I want to say this because I think I saw somebody else that did a review, and he said the same thing. Marvel is, and we've talked about this. Marvel's trying to gain a new audience. Got it.
Yeah.
People with dissociative identity disorder.
They're trying to introduce the characters. They're trying to introduce the characters to people that may have never read the comics.
Yeah,
and I think that they're going to they're going to have a couple misses. I don't think it's going to it's not going to tank their efforts, but I do think that Moon Knight overall for me was kind of like I don't know if you even need to produce that. You could have had him show up in a movie without a backstory, and people would have been fine.
I agree. Ultimately, like, I don't. As much as I wanted, as much as I wanted to kind of see this before I started watching it. Now that I'm done with season 1, I wholeheartedly agree. Like, it would have been better to have him show up,
Spider-Man it, like, cameo appearance, and then just gone. Yeah. That would have been great.
And then bring him back whenever you want to, right? To tell certain stories and to incorporate these other elements.
I think they were trying to cut off the series now that I think about everything with the fact that tomorrow or tonight, depending on how methodical you are about your timing, Doctor Strange is coming out. So I think when I look at the timetables, everything, I'm noticing Disney Plus does not like to step on their own feet. They try to get things done before the next thing starts, which is annoying because I would have so much liked to watch Doctor Strange as a refresher and then come back to finish off this show personally. But seeing that they were, obviously trying to rush it, and get that over with. Like 6 minutes of credits is not. There's no reason for that. There's no reason for that. You could have done.
You had one person doing CGI, obviously.
You could have done more fight scene, more.
And he was an unpaid intern.
Okay. I got a question. So
yeah,
I can never remember these damn names properly. So the lady in the afterlife,
Tarawet.
Okay, why did she not have an avatar?
Good question.
Secondly, if she's the, because everyone seemed to have avatars.
Yeah.
Plus, if she's guiding the dead to the afterlife,
I think she's a minor god though.
Why is she? Because there's lesser gods. There's tiers of them, but why is she? If she's the goddess of fertility and all that, why is she stuck with that job? Like I want that. I would like to know. Was there somebody who did that originally and then they got entombed? How do they f that up? Were they taking people? Were they reviving people or something?
She did the same thing. Like, is she gonna end up entombed now? Like,
So, and it was implied that she hadn't done that in a long time. Yeah. Because she had freaking flashcards because she forgot how to
Or that she was like, this was basically more or less new for her. That like she'd done a few of them, but hadn't done many.
I feel like she's so much like the audience, where we have no idea what's going on and we're just trying to piecemeal it together.
Yeah.
And she's like, but I laughed when she made this line, she made that small line saying, "I planned out the perfect costume for you." Like as soon as she said that, I was like, "That's hilarious." So this is what they do in their spare time. When their avatars are doing stuff, they're just tweaking with designs. They're just nerds. It's a party of nerds. A bunch of D&D players thinking about what they're going to do with their avatars.
You're
that's
not
where
wrong
I'm
on
at.
that front. I spent a lot of time thinking about what my D&D character looked like.
But yeah, it's just weird. There's a lot of history that's not being explained, and I think that would have been more interesting than seeing the fight scene. I would have loved to know what cataclysm caused the gods to fall apart.
In order to give that story proper thought, it needs a movie, because a movie would force the writers and the directors to have a path. I think a danger that Marvel's going to have, with the exception of possibly Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah. Falcon Cap.
That's what it's called, right?
Yeah, Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
And WandaVision, because we all knew they were going to be in a movie that's going to touch on the story they're leaving us with, right? Mm-hmm. We don't know what that is for Moon Knight, so it looks kind of sketchy. This is our series number 3. So what do they do with She-Hulk? What do they do with Miss Marvel? That could start to be like a crack in their armor if they're not careful. So do they give She-Hulk multiple seasons? We all know Loki, so like he gets a pass. Do they give Miss Marvel? Well, she's going to be in the Marvels. So
isn't she also in Doctor Strange?
Maybe. I don't think. See.
I think they've been teasing that she's going to have a minor appearance.
I think what a lot of people think is going to be is, from what I gathered, it's not Miss Marvel herself,
but
or Captain Marvel.
The kid.
It's the mother, because it's an alternative reality.
Okay.
So the one that died from cancer or whatever in our universe, their universe.
Gotcha. No, we're not talking about Monica Rambeau. We're talking about Miss Marvel. That's going to be one of the next
the one
shows
that's
out.
supposed to be part. That's supposed to be the one's supposed to be part mutant, but they can't do that.
No. So I'm saying the next show they have is Miss Marvel, and she's going to be in the Marvels, right?
Yeah.
They have Wanda from WandaVision is going to be in Multiverse of Madness.
Yep.
There's going to be a Captain America 4. We have to wait and see what happens with Moon Knight to see if there's any relevance to the story we were just left with.
And I do assume that they will, right? That there will be some tie-in from Moon Knight to something else down the line. Now, whether or not they do a good job with it,
they got Blade and all that, so it could be Midnight Suns thing.
One could argue that he could have been introduced in Blade and moved on.
Yeah.
right? So that's what I'm saying. I think everybody else is going to have they've either had an established story arc, or they're going to our character arc, or they're going to be able to continue one out in the future. So that's all. So I don't hate the show. I just think it didn't fit with like what they've done in the past, what they're potentially going to do in the future, and I hope they don't absorb a lot of hits of like or mishits that starts to derail what they're producing.
So I personally think that episodes 3 and 4 were probably like the highlights of the season, right?
Sure.
Episodes 1, not even 3 and 4 really, like probably 4.
I think 2 was pretty good.
Well, see, I was going to say that episodes 1, 2, and 3 to me felt like they could have been one episode. Like you could have condensed almost all of that down into a single episode and had more time to explain everything and get more into like the story that I think we all kind of wanted to see, but they spent episodes 2 and 3 like basically chasing a thing. You know, it was like we have to get the scarab and then we have to get Amit's tomb and then okay, now we're here. We got 3 episodes to crank everything out.
Let me leave the scarab for no reason, even though it tells people exactly where I'm at.
That too. Thank you for reminding me. That was really dumb.
Oh yeah. Because she was like, woo.
Yeah, he was like, here's a token for you.
So
like,
are we sent? But that kind of made me think like, is he trying to get caught?
No, I think he was trying to do that.
There's no implication.
I think he was just trying to do that. Pour a glass out for your homies thing, like respect.
Anyway,
here you go.
Let's end this up.
Why didn't he just leave his cane then? No.
Kane's too powerful. He needs to walk. Obviously, look at his feet.
I understand. Before we completely wrap things up, or maybe as a way of wrapping things up, where would you put this against the other Disney Plus Marvel shows so far? So WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, right? Those are the other two. And Loki.
So I would do Falcon, Winter Soldier, Loki, WandaVision, and then Moon Knight.
Okay, Joe.
Okay, so let me think of this real quick. This is before watching Multiverse of Madness. These two may flip. So number 1 would be Loki.
It can flip.
Then it's WandaVision.
Okay.
Then it's Moon Knight, and then it's Captain America and Winter Soldier.
God, that is
you're
so
racist.
Now, here's the bad thing.
Black people.
Here's the thing.
So
Okay, look, hold on.
racist.
Look at my trashy room for a second. I have all of these things. I love Captain America. I love him.
No, you don't.
But
you don't like the
so
black
dry. It was so dry, and I just wanted more in that show.
It was a better story, but whatever.
There's a better story in the comic books, and they try to bring that over, but they only. U.S. Agent's one of my favorite characters.
You just wanted to put.
And he got no love.
Yep.
He just wanted to put Sam Wilson on the bottom.
You just want to see a white man on top.
Dude, man, like I was blown away when they actually incorporated the original Captain America into it. I was like, yes, that's awesome. Let's talk about trial human experiments prior to Steve Rogers. That sounds great. And then they're like, they didn't really do anything with that. Like I was really hoping he would come in and fight. You don't show him throw a freaking tin into a wall and not fight later.
Because you missed the story. You missed the part of the story that was deep.
All right.
What do you mean?
We can go back and do a Falcon and Winter Soldier recap and review at some point. But I gotta give my 4.
Okay.
I would probably say Loki, Falcon, Winter Soldier, WandaVision, and then Moon Knight.
Extension.
I think ultimately Moon Knight delivered the least amount of enjoyment and overall story.
It really has nothing to do with anything else. And
maybe that was kind of the point, was that it was a starting point.
And that's okay. That's okay.
If it's executed right.
The story was just wrong. It was just all over the place. And if they would have been if they just would have executed it well, I would that could have been a good show. But the problems I have with it are the problems I have with it.
And I will say, I think, you were talking about the problems that Marvel may have going forward, or Disney may have with Marvel going forward. I think part of it is that they're trying to shoehorn a lot of this stuff into the same formula. They found something that worked a couple of times, and so now they're trying to just rinse and repeat like they've done with a lot of their movies, where it's a different story, different characters, but essentially you have the same, basic
Structure.
plot points along, the structure along the way, and now you're ending up with stuff where you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
From what I'm hearing from spoiler reviews, people are saying Multiverse of Madness changes up. Like, one person put it perfectly. He's like, if you like horror movies, this is where it's at. It's the first Marvel horror movie. And then I thought about New Mutants and how I wish that was actually a horror movie, like when it should have been.
Oh.
So I'm like, maybe Marvel did one right. So I'm excited for tomorrow. That's for sure.
I'll tell you this. I get tired of the argument of the Marvel formula. I think they have good source material. And people tend to not give them credit for the source material.
I don't think it's a matter of not having good source material. I just think that when you have great source material, you can get kind of lazy with how you go about actually telling the story. But that's
I think those two things are completely different. So the Marvel quote unquote formula is to try to get as close to the source material as possible, right? And that's the foundation of whatever these arcs are. So, with the exception of Thor Ragnarok,
which is arguably
and Guardians of the Galaxy 2
Marvel movie that's
but they can introduce just about any character with a good source material. They don't have a formula. Where they lose it is when they have people that just they don't know how to tell the story the right way. And I think that's going to be the challenge they have. But anyway,
are you talking about Are you referring to like scaling power sets and stuff like that, or how to introduce characters that are not exactly that character from the comic book?
No, not so much that. I think the issue I have is that with Moon Knight, I would have put 2 before 1 in the episode. Like, I would have written the story to where episode 2 kind of explains it, then I dig a little bit deeper in episode 1, combine 3 and 4, and possibly 5 into episode 3, right? And then I have 2 or 3 more episodes where I can, like, flesh out the rest of the story. Now, I get there's budget constraints and blah, 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 but I think it would have probably been a better story. Now, do you go to the writers for that, or do you go to the
director?
To the director?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think their formula is not. They don't have a formula. It's just how they introduce the source material. I think Moon Knight's an example of how they miss the mark of introducing, and even sometimes those introductions are a reintroduction with some retcons, and that's fine. The part that makes them successful is how they introduce the source material. We can, as an audience, whether it's with the history with the comics or not, you can forgive them for that. So,
all right. Anything else you guys want to add to our Moon Knight review before we close it out?
Yeah, watch Halo.
I did watch the first episode. It was really good, but I read some other reviews and people were like, "Yeah, the first episode was great, and the rest of it sucked."
As soon as Master Chief was unmasked, I was like, "No, I'm not watching it. I'm okay."
He is played by Pornstache from
I know.
Orange is the New Black.
I never liked Pornstache to begin with, so I'm like, I'm not.
From what?
From Orange is the New Black.
He's called Pornstache.
He's one of the
prison
guards.
He looked like porn. He raped other inmates and stuff. It was horrible. Like, I hate the character. I don't like the actor because he makes me feel. I remember that character, and I was like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. Whoever thought he should be Master Chief was completely off kiln, and they should.
Well, I think he's doing a great job.
All right. Next. Well, thank you guys very much for checking out our Season 1, Episode 6 finale review and recap of Moon Knight, as well as our overall Season 1 recap. Miss Marvel is up next, I guess, right? That's the next show. So we'll be tuning in for that for sure. Or She-Hulk, whatever. We will probably also do a Multiverse of Madness review at some point here once we all get the chance to see it. I don't know that all of us are running out to theaters to see that this weekend. I know Joe is obviously going tomorrow.
I might.
Andre might. I'll probably be the one holding us up here, but we'll see. Maybe I'll find some time this weekend to squeeze it in. But thanks a lot. We'll catch you next time. As always, I'm Chris.
I'm Andre.
And that's Moon Knight Joe. We'll see you guys next time.